So, Toy Story 4. This, I think most people in the lead up to the release assumed that this was going to be the bad one, right? Um, the early trailers didn't look very promising. It's centered around the seemingly unfunny new character of Forky, the Spork, who's been
Played
brought
by Arrested Development's Tony Hale.
yeah. And I think what most people were upset about was when the Toy Story 4 trailers were coming out was, for so many people, I think most people will agree that Toy Story 3 kind of perfectly finished off the trilogy. It ends with a near heavenly send off to the toys. They're given a loving new owner by Andy. Andy passes the toys on to the little girl Bonnie at the end. And the toys literally go from being in the fiery pits of hell to being given almost this, as I said, almost like heavenly euphoric send off at the end of 3. So people were pretty surprised, I guess, when Toy Story 4 was announced, because it begs the question, what else could they do? After such a perfect ending that caps seemingly everything off, how could they follow it up for like a fourth Toy Story film? What could they do? And I think Pixar's recent very, very mixed track record hasn't really helped things. Pixar have always said that they'll only make a sequel if the story's there, and I so desperately wanted to believe that in the lead up to Toy Story 4, because stuff like Finding Dory, The Incredibles 2 were perfectly fine, but maybe slightly subpar sequels.
Well, I would clarify. I think Incredibles 2 is quite good. I don't think Finding Dory is particularly good. I think they're in a different league from each other.
I'd put them about the same level, personally, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I liked Incredibles 2, but I was very underwhelmed by it. I basically remember nothing about the film. I think it's like a big missed op. For me personally, I think I'd put them on the same level. I think Finding Dory was fine, and I think Incredibles 2 was fine.
Monsters University.
That is in a different league. That's below average. And then the Glut of Cars sequels as well. And then I was thinking, oh god, please don't let this be the same fate for Toy Story. And as the trailer centered around this seemingly unfunny new character called Forky, and I don't know about you, but things weren't looking good. I wasn't infused by the trailers, and it didn't really sell or even justify the existence of like a fourth Toy Story film. So I sat with the popcorn, sat with my drink, and I settled down. I was more like, right, let's get this over with. let's see what we do. And yeah, to be honest, I'm a little bit shocked because I thought it was really great. I thought it was really good. Colour be completely shocked, but Pixar managed to find a way of improving upon the ending of Toy Story 3, in my opinion. I don't think Toy Story 4 is maybe it doesn't hit the heights of the previous 3 films, but I think it is a really satisfying and slightly peculiar epilogue to the series. It's got loads of inspired moments. It's big on laughs. It's big on heart. It's big on ideas. And I thought it took it to a really interesting thematic space. I was surprised by kind of what the central tenet of the film was, which I guess we'll get into a bit more. Personally, I really liked the film. I don't know where I'd rank it in terms of Toy Story films, but it was definitely better than I thought it was going to be. And I thought it was a really great epilogue to the series. What did you think, Marcus?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Probably slightly tapered down from your reaction. Objectively, it's a really good film. I personally didn't think it sort of justified needing to be there, obviously apart from the dump loads of money that they'll make. But as a film, it's a really good film. There's nothing sort of negative in it. I just didn't think it justified itself enough to sort of have been made. But yeah, I echo your thoughts. It's definitely by no means an embarrassment that it looked like from the trailers, and yeah, even Forky himself isn't the embarrassment he seems to be from the awful lead up. Yeah, as you say, it has a peculiar tone, because I think that they must have realised they couldn't have gone for the same sort of elegiac tone of the third one, where it's quite mournful, and it's like, how does it move on? Right, so obviously the sort of the plot of it is that Woody, again, is sort of struggling with not being the sort of primary toy anymore. It seems more that he's sort of moved on from that role and just wants to be sort of there to help the other toys. For what's the girl called? Bonnie, isn't it?
Bonnie, yeah.
Yeah, and the film traces his attempts to save Forky, the spork, which is sort of having an existential crisis where he wants to be trash, in order to make Bonnie happy. And the sort of main relationship within the film is between Bo Peep, who's moved on from being a purely service-based toy. She's more like transient now and just wants to be played with by by various owners sort of in the wild, and it's sort of this clash between Woody's sense of duty to Bonnie and sort of his clear desire to live. I mean, the story is kind of having interesting philosophical implications as well.
You see, for me,
because it's so dense, sort of like what the backstory of these toys is now, and like what the world that they've expanded the world out so much. You've got the first one, which is pretty much all pretty much set in one street, isn't it? Mainly Andy's house, and then you got Sid, and that's it. That would encompass the great outdoors, the carnival. It's like the entire world now has been fleshed out.
You see, for me, that underpinning of the film is why I kind of disagree with slightly what you said. I think that 100% justifies the existence of the film. I love the idea, and this is probably the nexus of the idea where they were like, it's okay guys, we've got a really great idea for the film, is that I love the idea that post the big, happy, perfect ending, you know, the picture postcard, heavenly ending they got at the end of Toy Story 3, that things don't work out for Woody. Like, he's dissatisfied with his life, you know, he's like, he feels like his purpose has been fulfilled, his time has gone by, and it gets him down, it makes him depressed, and like, you know, he's kind of like, you know, he's by himself pretty much in this cupboard, not played with, you know. The films up to this point have basically had a thematic underpinning that devotion to a child is the number one thing that a toy should try and aspire to be. You know, whatever you can do for your child is the most important thing. But I think what happens throughout this film is that I think it pretty much emotionally destroys Woody by trying to make Bonnie happy. You know, because Bonnie already is a happy child. You know, Bonnie doesn't need Woody. So where does that leave Woody? Like, you know, you're basically told through the first three films that devotion to a child is the most important thing that a toy can aspire to. And then all of a sudden, Woody's like, well, what if that child already is happy? Where does that leave my devotion? And I think that is the kind of the core of the film. And I think that's a really, really interesting place to take the character and basically to kind of end his story by basically realising his own self-worth. I think it's the only way you could do Toy Story 4 in an interesting way. In a way, it quietly undermines the ending of 3, and it also quietly undermines the whole franchise in a way, which in a way that's not like disrespectful to the previous films. You know, like, oh, you know, Woody was so stupid for being so devoted to Andy. But I think it's more the fact that it takes it to a more mature emotional space for the character, by basically having his eyes open to, you know, what the world can be. You know, he encounters Bo Peep, you know, kind of getting past the whole plot convenience that, you know, Bo Peep just happened to be in an antique store. I think thematically the fact that Woody meets a toy that he once knew, again, but the fact that she's completely changed is, again, I think really, really important for this central tenet of the film where, you know, in the previous films, the concept of being a lost toy, being without a child, was the most, like, devastating concept. Like, this is all we've got. But for Bo Peep, it's an exercise in self-fulfillment. You know, she's able to basically become a kind of totally different kind of character, kind of because of it. So I think what Toy Story 4 does, I think Annie kind of touched upon it there. I think what Toy Story 4 does really, really great, and in my opinion, does justify its existence, is by really drilling down more than ever what it means to be a toy. Like, whatever that might mean in this universe. I don't want to sound kind of cringy, but I think this time it really is a Toy Story. I think probably more than any of the other films in a way, by the fact that it does explore central tenets of the series and actually does kind of question them. What like with Forky, what does constitute a toy? Does a child just need to stick googly eyes onto like a spork, onto like an inanimate object and love it, and it gains sentience? A Forky's kind of like he's kind of like I don't know. I guess kind of like raising. Always really, I don't know. I found it really interesting the fact that they kind of went there with Woody the way that they did, and basically kind of questioned who he was. Like his whole devotion to Andy, his whole devotion to Bonnie, and what does that mean when situations change? And I love that's what they went for. It feels in a long about way. I realize I've probably taken quite a lot of time now, but I feel like in a way that because of what we did, it does justify its existence in a way of being an epilogue to the series, where Woody's like, you don't need no child. You can, you could be who you want to be, and I like that. I thought it was cool. I'm glad that we went there.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting to imagine like what could a. Do you think that children who haven't seen the first three would get like a lot out of this one, or like because it does seem to be playing so heavily on sort of the mythology of the first three, and it is such a sort of bizarre, almost existential looking. As you were saying, what is the purpose of like a toy itself? Like because it is interesting that I thought it was going to be more of a rip off of the third one.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the third one they go to the what's the area? It's like a preschool, isn't
like
it?
A kindergarten, like a kindergarten nursery kind of thing, yeah.
And in this one they go to the antique sale, so it's sort of on surface level quite similar. But in this one, I think it quite cleverly plays off of that. Because in the third one, you've got the villain, which is the strawberry scented bear.
Lotsa.
And in this one, it looks like Gabby is going to be sort of the antagonist like that, where she's going to try and manipulate events so she can become like the primary toy. But she becomes more of a figure of sympathy, because it's like she, her voice box is broken, so she's trying to like harvest Woodies. I think it goes because for like the first sort of half an hour or from when she's introduced, you think that that's going to be the main. It's interesting in a way that it's almost it is antagonistless.
Yeah.
There is sort of no bad guy in it, which is an interesting move forward. I'm liking it more and more discussing it than I actually did watching it, I think.
Yeah, it was one of them where, I walked away having thoroughly enjoyed the film, and I've actually written a review for my blog. And then when I started to think about it more, I was kind of like, I did some really, really clever things there. Like, really, really clever bits of, like, writing and, like, thematic payoffs. And, I said for me, basically, because everyone's got in their head, that ending of Toy Story 3, which is brilliant. It's so perfect. It's so, like, dreamlike and euphoric, especially after what's come, throughout Toy Story 3. I think it's a really brave move on the writer's part to say, all right, well, most of the toys got their big happy ending and everything's working out great for them, but, Woody didn't. And I think that in itself is more than justifies, I think, wanting to pursue a fourth film and exploring that concept, which in my opinion they do really admirably. I respect how they didn't rely on nostalgia. They didn't pander to nostalgia by having, okay, maybe I do wish maybe some of the original toys were in it a little bit more, like Ham and Miss Potato Head and all this sort of stuff. But I like how they were committed to kind of creating a whole new set of characters, and not only that, but making the characters really good as well. Like making them genuinely fun, interesting characters. Like, I wasn't expecting to get much out of Forky, for example, but, I thought he was great. Like, I thought he was really funny. Like, he's a really fun character. I loved all the other kind of toys we meet along the way, like the Ducky and Bunny. One of them was voiced by Jordan Peele.
Well, it's Kay and Peele, isn't it? The comedy team.
That's right, yeah. And Keanu Reeves as Duke Kaboom. Woody's meeting all these kind of lost toys who've ultimately made something of themselves by, not being associated with a child. And I like how they spend so much time with them. Like, I was saying, I said like in my written review, like the thing with Forky is that all Forky is just a plot device to get Woody away from the original gang so he can go on his own journey. The fact that they made Forky into a fun character who raises really funny and interesting existential questions about the Toy Story universe is just kind of like the icing on the cake for me. I kind of had quite good fun just like mulling over, the implications of all this. And, ultimately, I'm glad they made a new character to serve as this plot device as opposed to like, oh no, Mr. Potato Head has gone missing, we have to rescue him, and it's lame that. But you kind of throw in a fun new character like Forky, suddenly it kind of gets a bit more interesting. I always think about the original proposed plot of Toy Story 2, when it was going to be a direct-to-video sequel. And it was so lame sounding. Basically, like all the Buzz Lightyears in the world have been like recalled by like their Chinese toy company, including the Buzz we know and love. So he's taken away. So the toys have to go on like an adventure to China to try and like rescue Woody or rescue Buzz. So like a lot of the similar set pieces are still there. Like those going to be seen like set in an airport, for example, and. But anyway, yeah. So like, I'm kind of glad that they kind of really played into having all these new characters, and they're all good. They're all fun. They're interesting. I thought Gabby Gabby was great. Christina Hendricks was really really good. I had a blast with it, and like I couldn't believe that it was as good as kind of almost as good as viewers. I'd still probably rank it maybe like in the. I need to watch it again really, but I'll probably still rank it like in the lower half, but I think probably thematically it's probably one of the more like interesting of them all. Probably even more so than maybe 2 and 3. Two is always kind of my favourite one because 2 is the one I think where it really introduces a lot of kind of like the the moral ambiguity into the Toy Story universe. Like what if the toys had abandonment issues? But I think Toy Story 4 potentially, the more mull it over, I think is probably the most interesting one from like that perspective, which is kind of why I got out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the first one, I think, is probably actually the weakest one, even though I think people have got a lot of nostalgia for it. It is kind of a more basic story than any of the other ones. It's only about 75 minutes as well, isn't it? It doesn't explore anywhere near as much ground as the second and third. I think with the third one as well, it's quite interesting. It feels also like sort of end of an era. Like, wasn't it was it the last thing that Pixar were working on before Disney bought them up? And like, apart from like, it's like that, and then Inside Out, and then like all the Disney Pixar ones are sort of mediocrities.
Yeah.
Have I got the timeline of that right? It's sort of only Inside Out that's like an amazing film after that one.
And Coco. Coco's great.
Oh yeah, Coco. Yeah,
I loved Coco.
Coco though, that felt like they were just going to make shitty sequels and.
Yeah, I mean like a Toy Story 3 in terms of like the history of Pixar really does kind of conclude that golden era. That kind of started off with the original Toy Story film when they had that fairly amazing run with just like Cars basically being the only slightly mediocre one. Where they consistently made good to like masterpiece level films, where they had not only critical success, not only box office success, but also audience success. The three things that I think probably most people kind of, a big studio ultimately wants. We want people to like the film, we want critics to praise the film, and we want the film to be successful. Pixar had everything. And Toy Story 3 is definitely kind of like the last in that era, I think, which is apt. Because after that, you've got Brave, which, it's alright. Cool concept, ruined by a terrible second half. You've got all the Cars sequels, and then you got Inside Out and Coco, which are like almost like outliers at this point. Then you got Monsters University and The Good Dinosaur.
Oh, that's the worst one.
Oh, hey, it's not good. A good dinosaur sucks so much. I watched a guy's video on it recently, like just analysing it, and I was like, oh god, it's way worse than I remember it being. Yeah. So Toy Story 3, I think for a lot of people, is emblematic of the end. It's and not just the end of like Pixar, but I also think like probably like ending a part of like one's life, if you know what I mean. Like I've got a very very personal attachment to Toy Story 3 in that like it was the last film I saw pretty much with my family before I went to university. Like I was going through all these emotions at the time, and also almost being like an end of an era kind of thing. Toy Story 3 is kind of like about that. So I think people have this like, like this golden glow from Toy Story 3. I mean, I love Toy Story 3. I think it's a great film, but I think it might annoy some people. Toy Story 4, in a way. In that, like, it does kind of quietly undermine that ending. People like to think it kind of ends there. That's it. But there's always more of a story to tell. Now, that said, I don't know what they could do for Toy Story 5, and I kind of hope they don't do Toy Story 5.
I hope it ends here now. Well, they couldn't have Woody back in, definitely not. So
yeah, it feels appropriate to kind of end it the way that they did. Because I think some people might get a bit upset by the original toys not getting to do much. I mean, like Buzz still gets a few funny scenes, but his use of the plot is arbitrary, I guess.
Sidelined pretty heavily, yeah.
Yeah, sidelined pretty heavily, which I think could upset some people. But I think that is the drawback to doing the kind of story that they were going to do in Toy Story 4. By concentrating it on Woody, by concentrating it on his personal journey. This is, I think, more than any of the other films. Like, I know they're all kind of centered around Woody, but I really do feel like this definitely is his film more than any of the others. Because I always think of I know they're kind of centered around Woody, but I always think of them as kind of being like ensemble films in a way. Because like in Toy Story 2, for example, all right, Woody's gone missing and his is the central conflict. Does he go home to Andy, or does he go with the toys to the museum in Japan? But I always think of like all the side stories and kind of like Jessie's like story that she's got, and so I always kind of think of them as like ensemble films in a way, even though almost like like the Fox X-Men films. How they always have like Wolverine at the centre, but then they've kind of got in the good ones anyway. They've always kind of got like. Oh. Don't know what's going on there, a bit of static there. Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here, are you?
Yeah, still here, just got a little bit of static, that's all. So I almost kind of feel like they're kind of like, the good Fox X-Men films, where like, Wolverine is the central focus, but then you've kind of got all the other characters who are, probably just as interesting. Wolverine's just kind of like the central character. So I think this one more than any of the other ones is, I think it really does concentrate on Woody more than any of the others, I think, which I think makes it interesting. And
I enjoyed it more than the approach of the last thing we talked about was the Deadwood movie, where that's a sort of nostalgic, bringing stuff back. And it's just like, here's a character you remember, give him like 2 or 3 scenes where it repeats, like, doesn't really advance anything like that they've done in the meantime. And yeah, unlike that, there is like an actual feeling of time having passed and character evolution. Like, I like the fact that they focused on new characters and stuff rather than just like every other reunion thing where it's just like, hey, you remember this guy? He's doing the thing again.
Yeah.
Like, it would have been so easy just to trot out Rex and well, interestingly, the franchise actually on a slightly morbid note been caught up by real life events. Like Jim Varney, who played Slinky, he's dead.
Yeah.
Don Rickles, who played Mr. Potato Head, he's dead. So yeah, the franchise actually started to outlive some of the original actors from the first 2 films. So yeah, I suppose they have no option but to move on. And I suppose in all from an interesting sort of time progressing standpoint, this is probably the first one where people who saw the first 2 in the cinema can actually take their kids along as well.
Yeah, that's true.
A good evolution of the franchise.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, the audience I saw it with was pretty much half families and half, like, 20-something-year-olds. Like, it's pretty much. I think these films kind of like, appeal now. I think. And yeah, no, I'd be interested to kind of hear what a kid could maybe get out of Toy Story 4. I think. I don't know how much they'd enjoy it. Like, I enjoyed it more for just having yeah, no, but more for just having like the honor of seeing how this franchise has progressed and like changed over the years. Like who'd have thought that? Like when Toy Story 1 came out, a fun film about what if toys came to life when you closed the door, would turn into this kind of like fascinating like exercise in like in existentialism and like what it means to live and like it's crazy when you think about it. Really, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as I was saying before, like the scope going from just like one room to like essentially the entire world at this point is just. I mean, you'd say you couldn't imagine anything with the fifth one, but they'd probably just try and expand to like I don't know, like other countries or something, or like yeah. But thematically, this is sort of the end of the franchise. Like with Forky being like about existentialism and what it is to be a toy. It sort of hit the end of the road, and like I saw it with my sister. I think she liked it, but not as much as the other ones because it is so much more, like essentially, dense and sort of, it's tougher to sort of work. It's not just a simple. I mean, it has a simple-ish plot where it's like find Forky, bring him back. That's the end of it. But yeah, like thematically, it's not got the sort of like easy interplay between Woody and Buzz as well that the first one had. Like that's simple buddy movie beats and stuff. This one seemed like I was interested in how much of it sort of like introduces Forky, then almost just among with one conversation, Woody sort of gets him on side to be Bonnie's toy. Then that sort of sideline, which I thought was going to be sort of like I thought the main thrust of the entire plot was going to be getting Forky on side to think that he is a toy. So it sidelines that really quickly, and then just moves on to being about first Bo Peep's relationship with Woody, then Gabby Gabby, and that's it's interesting how it sort of shifts it shifts who your sort of point of sympathy is, and it also shifts the sort of narrative focus a few times within the film, which I think it's quite ambitious for a kids film, not to just have that one central thing. It changes the characters actually change throughout the film.
Yeah, completely. And I mean, I think it's a testament to whatever kind of creative juice that I think Pixar has left at this stage, where they're able to take, to kind of take something, as you say, kind of as ambitious as that, and kind of make it work. Like just iron out any kind of issues, and the fact that it's bright and breezy and funny. I think it's probably one of the funniest films in the series. And the fact that it works under all these kind of underpinnings of kind of what's going on with the characters and the themes and stuff. Like, I've seen fucking like adult drama series that claim to be all adult. Fucking Toy Story 4 is more adult than like a lot of these prestige. I think a lot of prestige dramas. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. I think the fact that they kind of get away with it.
Yeah. Well, I think it shows that like Pixar films and when they deal with big things like with Inside Out, where it dealt with childhood emotions, and that was a really dense, complex film, like emotionally. And like that one as well. That was like the last one they did was great. So it's like they should deal with these bigger canvases and. Like, I think Incredibles 2 seemed like it'd be a more interesting premise, It's like, what if the characters, as they actually matured out and stuff, and what would it be like later? Obviously, that film sort of wimps out on it because it doesn't do a time skip. It's just, like, directly after the first one. I think they're actually interesting comparisons between the two, with how this actually has the characters evolve, and, Incredibles 2 is just, like a week later, and, you know what I mean? Like, comparing the two and how, like, one of them actually tries to develop the themes further, and everyone just tries to sort of replay it. And I'm sort of not making the point very well, but you know what I mean about like Incredibles 2 compared to this.
Oh yeah, no, completely, because that was my biggest thing with The Incredibles 2, where I was like, when they announced it, I was fairly excited. I was like, oh my god, The Incredibles 2, there's so much they could do with a sequel to this film. And then when I found out it was going to be set a week after the original one, I was a bit like, oh, great. Because I had in my head my own Incredibles 2 sequel where, the kids have gotten a bit older, like Bob and Helen have, gotten older. Jack's like a full toddler or something. And I had my own image of kind of like an Incredibles 2, and I was a little bit disappointed that it was just the same characters. It's like Violet's a moody teenager, but we already knew that from the first film. That's like one of the big things in the first film. Dash is a show off. We don't really have anything for Dash to do in the second one, so it's fine. But Bob's gonna be a dad. He's gonna have to look after the kids without mum. Whoa. You know what I mean? It's kind of like it's pretty lame, to be honest. Like I think Incredibles 2's a fine film. Like it's okay, but it's more the missed opportunities that I'm more frustrated with about it. While Toy Story 4 feels like a proper sequel. It doesn't really feel like the other films. Even though ostensibly the structure is similar. Woody goes to find a lost toy, but it goes to a much, much more interesting place than I think anyone could have predicted. Really, there's so many just great scenes in this film, and the animation is stunning. Like it looks amazing. Like I don't think
the way they get rain, like the opening scene where it's the car stuck in the rain, that just looks incredible. Looks like a live action film.
Yeah, it proper does, doesn't it? Yeah. And I mean, but the plastic and the fur and the porcelain, it's never looked better. The whole concept of breathing life into an inanimate object, and they just sell it, just completely. I like the way the characters move and stuff, and it's just you can definitely tell where all that Disney money goes. At least they say it's all up there on screen. And it's fast moving, it's bright, it's breezy, it's a fun film. Weirdly though, it's kind of underperformed a little bit apparently. Still made a hell of a lot of money, like still amazingly successful, but it's kind of underperformed a little bit, which I think is a little bit of a shame. Which suggests to me that maybe a lot of people aren't sold on the concept of the fourth Toy Story, which I can understand. I wasn't sold on the concept of the fourth Toy Story until I sat down to watch the film, and I read the early reviews of it. But I kind of hope people do kind of give it a shot, because I think it is a very, very worthy sequel to the series, and a very nice epilogue. Ace Patel, I loved. It's filled with such kind of strange moments and just really funny scenes and really great characters and God, no, I thought it was great. I really liked it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I've been won over. There is a reason for this film. Very good film. I put it above the first one. And it's easily probably the best. Well, it's the best one since at least Coco, and then before that since Inside Out.
Yeah, definitely. I'd completely agree there. Yeah, it was one of them where kind of like how Woody's on a journey of self discovery. I think Toy Story 4 is as well, where I think there is a big hurdle to overcome of how do you get past the third film? How do you get past that perfect ending? If we are going to do a fourth one, what are we going to do? And I think they found the best way forward possible. Now, I think it completely justified its reason to exist, and no more though.
Definitely.
I said this to the end of 3, and I never thought I'd be satisfied with Toy Story 4. But now I'm serious. I'm like, end it. Just cut it here. There's literally nothing more they can do now, right? I mean, so I go back to what I was saying. Leave it to Pixar to improve upon an already kind of perfect ending. Maybe not necessarily as a film, but conceptually, I think Toy Story 4 is as perfect an ending as Toy Story 3 was at the time. It's only shy of absolute greatness. I think Toy Story 4. and I might even like it more, if I was to rewatch it. Like with all the others. Yeah, no, it's yeah. I suppose the thing as well is Toy Story 2 and 3 are some of like the best animated films of all time. So
Yeah, it's a high bar.
it's a stupidly high bar. Yeah, like Toy Story 4 would be like a franchise best for like I think pretty much any other series. The fact that it's like probably like the third best Toy Story film is a testament to its quality, really, overall as a franchise. All right. Where do you rank the other two then? So Toy Story 2 and 3. Like, which is your favourite one?
I've not seen 2 for absolutely like maybe a decade. I'd probably say 3, but that's probably only because it's better, but only because I've seen it more recently.
Okay.
But yeah, if I watch 2 again, that might be the one. But yeah, it's so long ago. I remember a lot of it, but not the actual sensation of watching it and where I placed it, just because it has been so long. Yeah. I definitely think the first one's the worst one. Obviously, it's still a good film.
Yeah, it's still a great film.
Only by comparison. But yeah, speaking now, 3, 2, 4, 1. But yeah, if I watch them again, I was feeling that it'd probably be 2, 3, 4, 1.
That's my order. 2, 3, 4, 1 is my order. I think 2's the one for me where, as I said earlier, it's the one where they kind of really worked in the more like esoteric, depressing thematic material. Like, as I said, that the first one, it goes some, darkish places, but ultimately it's all about, what if toys came to life when you close your door? Toy Story 2 is like, what if the toys suffered from like depression and like trauma and like PTSD? Like, for me, that's where the Toy Story franchise kind of becomes like really special, I think. So yeah, Toy Story 2 is my favourite. So yeah, 2, 3, 4, 1, I think. It's probably my rankings. So I mean, for me personally, pretty much everything is stellar presentation wise. Like, animation's amazing, music's great. There's even a terrible new Randy Newman song as well, which I was happy about.
That Randy Newman song is awful. The one
awful.
where it's like, what is it now? It's just him singing one line over and over again, like, fine, that's all right. Oh no, it's don't. You think you can't throw? I won't let you throw yourself away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I let yourself away. Yeah, it's really bad. But even that made me smile because it's like, oh, it's a terrible Randy Newman song. It really is a Toy Story film.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe closing thoughts. The world should die if the Queen's corgi is higher in the box office than this. Have you seen the advert for that?
Oh God, no.
Oh my God!
Oh wait, no, I have. Sorry, the one with like animated Donald Trump and.
Yeah, and it's about Jack Whitehall plays the Queen's corgi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've seen the trailer a couple times for that now. Yeah.
Because they played that before this actually at the cinema.
Yeah, they played it before us as well. Yeah. No, I try to put that out of my memory, but yeah, that looks awful. Just awful.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Toy Story 4, go see it. Good film.
Yeah, highly recommended. Go see it.